There are few characters in JRPG history as enigmatic, tragic, and iconic as Magus. Born as Prince Giannis of Guile, and then twisted into the dark warlock Magus, and eventually, possibly, reborn again in the fractured world of Chrono Cross. But Chrono Cross never tells us what happened to him, not directly, and yet his shadow stretches across the entire game. So today, we dive into one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the Chrono universe. What really happened to Magus after Chrono Trigger, and is he still out there, hiding in plain sight? Long before he became the dark sorcerer known as Magus, he was Giannis, a quiet, melancholic child of the magical kingdom of Guile, the son of Queen Guile and the younger brother of Scala. Yes, I said it right, it's Scala. It only took 30 comments. Watch me pronounce like all these other names wrong. Giannis lived during the final years of Guile's grandeur, but as the kingdom fell under Lavos' influence, Giannis saw his sister sacrificed to fate, and his mother consumed by madness. When Lavos was awakened in the Ocean Palace disaster, a time portal opened, flinging Giannis into our distant past, 600 AD. This is where history began to shape him into something new. Giannis arrived alone in a world full of knights and monsters, and was taken in by Ozzy and the demonic mystics of Medina after using magic to defend himself. Humans shouldn't have been able to use magic at this point in time, period. And so, Ozzy saw Giannis' potential to perhaps be an even greater magi than him. Raised among them, he sharpened his hatred. He studied dark magic and became Magus, a cold, calculating, and seemingly all-powerful warlock bent on summoning Lavos, but not for the reason you might be thinking. It wasn't to worship him like the mystics believed, but to destroy him. In Chrono Trigger, Magus becomes both enemy and ally. We see the full arc of his obsession, not with power but with revenge, and most importantly with saving Scala. And depending on the player's choices, Magus can even join the party. But after Lavos is defeated, where does that leave him? Well, in the Nintendo DS version of Chrono Trigger, a new ending is unlocked after defeating the Dream Devourer, an evolved form of Lavos that's begun fusing with the lost Scala and the darkness beyond time. In this ending, Magus confronts what remains of his sister. He's helpless to free her, and so rather than live on with his own failure, he decides to wipe his own memory. He completely erases Magus from existence. He becomes no one. Or, years later in Chrono Cross, we meet Guile, a mysterious masked magician who joins Serge's quest. He's cool, calm, and a powerful magic user. Guile seems to come from nowhere. He knows more than he lets on, and he never removes his mask. Behind the scenes, developer Masato Kato revealed that Guile was originally intended to be Magus, but the plot became too complex with so many characters and backstories, and they're juggling all these different things, so they made Guile his own character, or so they say. His original name was Guile in Radical Dreamers, which is a side quest, or actually better said, a side story to Chrono Trigger. But fans have long debated whether that origin still lingers. Guile's appearance, his tone, his magic, all this feels unmistakably like a lost Magus. Chrono Cross builds on the complex timeline fractures created by Trigger. Through events like the time crash and the formation of Chronopolis, history's rewritten. Characters like Serge and Kid exist only because of Balthasar's massive plan, Project Kid, which aims to undo the creations of the Time Devourer and save Scala. I have a whole video about it. I will put the card up in the corner. You'll see it right here. And if you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch that one too. So Guile may not be explicitly labeled Magus, but the echoes are everywhere. The idea of a man who lost himself to time, a magician with no past, and a silent witness to history repeating itself. So, is Guile Magus? Maybe. Hang on, maybe. Or maybe Magus is truly gone, and Guile's what's left when you strip Giannis of his memories, his pain, and his obsession. You have to admit, their characters look strikingly and suspiciously similar. Even in discarded character designs, Guile looks even more like Magus, especially in this one in the bottom middle, looks almost exactly like Magus. Another theory I saw floated around, that Magus became the Dream Devourer himself, drawn into Scala's suffering and never escaped. Look, that one sounds like a bunch of BS to me. I'm not so sure about that, but I threw it in there for something you guys can chew on and discuss in the comments. I just don't see it, but I'm not gonna lie. You guys seem to be way more knowledgeable on the Chrono timeline than me. I am still studying it myself. Or perhaps Magus is simply still out there, watching from the edge of time, waiting, remembering nothing, and yet drawn to the same crossroads again and again. Guile is drawn to Surge, and Surge's story is drawn to Scala. In the end, Magus is more than a character, he's a ghost, a remnant of a story that no longer fits cleanly into the world he helped shape. His presence in Chrono Cross is not confirmed, but it doesn't need to be. The devs more or less confirmed he was Magus at some point, and then they decided against that decision. And then in their infinite wisdom, they decided to retcon that idea back into existence with the Nintendo DS version. And seriously, the more I dig into this timeline, this Chrono Cross cluster F, it's like before everybody had AirPods and everybody had wired headphones. It's like putting your headphones in your pocket and you pull them out and they're tangled in 19 different knots. That's what this entire timeline feels like. Guile basically is and isn't Magus, which is pretty fitting for this series because it's totally on point for Chrono. Look, in my opinion, straight up, if you played Chrono Trigger then Chrono Cross exclusively, just those two games, he probably is not Magus to you because the dots aren't all there to connect. But if you fill your brain with the DS version, the Radical Dreamers, and do a little research and write a couple papers, do a couple theses, the dots kind of begin to connect themselves, and you see that maybe, just maybe, Magus lives on in a quieter, simpler, less painful existence. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you guys think Guile is Magus, Guile is Guile Magus. And are you mad or upset about the way the devs kind of handled the whole thing? They introduced an idea and then they dropped it and then they kind of retconned it back in, but there's hints, but nothing is actually confirmed. Let me know in the comments. For me, I played Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger a long time ago, but I played Chrono Cross first when I was a kid. And you know, I just love it, and I still love it to this day. I'm actually one of the few people who love the battle system in Chrono Cross. Tangent, I just think it has a cool pacing and rhythm to it. I don't know. Let me know if you feel the same, but I think it's clear the more I've been reading a lot into like Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger and the kind of connection between them. The devs or whoever's idea this was, I don't think they knew exactly what they wanted to do with Chrono Cross. Do you think they were trying to make a spiritual successor? Maybe like an anthology with threads, kind of like Final Fantasy? A direct sequel? I just don't think that they really knew how to connect these two games, but it seems like they really wanted to. Almost maybe forced it. You know what I mean? The more I read about it, you know, that's how I feel. Even though I haven't played the games in a while, I'm going to have to go back and play them both. Let me know what you guys think. Have an amazing day, and God bless.